Hello, I'm Ziggy the Wine Gal for Allvino, the best site for American wines, and I've got my partner Chris Sawyer. We are together, Zigsaw for Allvino, and we're super psyched to be here because we're going to talk about a couple of our favorite wines this week. And to get started, we're going to talk about Outcast, which is an insanely fabulous Grenache. This is the 2011 vintage from the Oak Knoll in Napa. What do you think of this wine, Chris?
You know what, I'm a big fan of Grenache. This is a grape variety that comes from the Rhone Valley and mainly from Spain originally. We've gotten to know it here in California fairly well, but it has become the new little hidden treasure of Napa Valley. And we're starting to see a lot more of it being planted because the one thing you can't plant in Napa Valley is Pinot Noir. It's just too hot there, except for in Carneros. So this is the kind of grape that you can plant there that has that kind of body that's very similar to a Pinot Noir, but has some things that you can do with it that you can't do with Pinot Noir, and that's blending. So it's very well known for the GSM blends in Australia, where GSM is Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. And in this case, you're finding a lot of these being bottled by themselves. And great little producer is Outcast. They are a great sourcing producer, what we call negociant. They don't own these vineyards necessarily, but they certainly get the great fruit in these areas. And why is Oak Knoll such a good part of this area right there is because it's a little bit closer to the Carneros area, where it does get a little bit breezy in the late afternoons. It's really good, and I'm tasting it already. This is a nice medium-bodied wine. Very good red flavors. It's got a lot of that pomegranate and cherry to me.
Well, the nice thing about the Grenache, in my opinion, of course, is that its likability just as a fabulous wine in the glass, but also together with food. And kind of along the lines of what you were talking about, just, instead of a Pinot Noir, this is something that has, a little bit more fruit forwardness, which is going to go with a lot of stuff. Apparently, this time of year, we love barbecues, right? So what a great barbecue wine this would be. But also going into the fall, what a fabulous wine for Thanksgiving dinner. And just an all-around great glass of wine. I mean, really approachable, nice little hint of spice, some real pretty red fruits on it. What are you getting, Suzanne?
It's rare to see it in its red form, and I really like it. I can recognize some of the same flavors and smells that I did in the Grenache Rosé.
I get some really nice strawberry notes to it.
Definitely wild strawberry.
It's wild strawberry, and it's just so fruit friendly.
Yes.
But it's got great acidity that's kind of cutting underneath there. That's why it's very similar in many ways to Pinot Noir. And I think this is really one of the ones that you're going to want to do with duck. You're going to want to do it with some really nice cheeses, kind of medium cheeses. A lot of little light pasta dishes like heirloom tomatoes right now, going with pasta when it's fresh. Just cut up those tomatoes, put a little bit of capers in there, do a little herbs, and don't go big with the red dressing or red sauce because it doesn't need it. It just needs freshness right now, and that's what I'm getting out of this.
And completely approachable wine. It's great to drink young. It's not something that you're going to have to, hold on to in your cellar for any length of time. It's approachable, absolutely at this stage, but also, in the next 24 hours, it might be even more approachable. We were talking earlier about, if you have a couple glasses of wine, you put a cork in it, and the next day you want to, have some with your meal the next day. I do that all the time at home. And this is just a gift that keeps giving. It's absolutely delicious. Well balanced, real pretty, and a great food wine. Darren, what would you pair with this?
Just like a light sauce on a barbecued chicken, for in the wintertime or the summertime.
Little Billy Bird.
Yeah. Well, great showcase
Cheers.
for a starting wine for this round.
Cheers.
So this round, we're going to get the next one going right now. This round is all about Napa Valley. So we've got 3 wines from Napa Valley. The next one is called Sempre, Vive. This one is a little bit of the younger vines and the older vines together. And I think this is just a great wine that we're going to be tasting here. It's Cabernet from Napa Valley. And as you can see, the color is fairly dark on this. But when you taste it, you'll see that it's really more medium to full. So once again, we're not talking about a big, huge tannic Cabernet. It's a Cabernet that you can really do with a lot of different foods, and a lot of people would really like this without being too harsh on the tan.
Well, it's almost like a cumin or some kind of exotic spice that I'm getting on the mid palate of this. I'm also getting some really pretty forest floor, I'm definitely getting a little bit of mint on it.
Yeah.
As well as some really rich Santa Rosa plum and kind of some juicy, brambly
Yeah.
blackberry almost. Yeah. And almost get this really attractive kind of gamey profile on it, which I really like. It reminds me of an old world wine.
Absolutely.
It's got a little smoke to it. It's inviting. It's very interesting, and you know, this is a wine that I did at one of my projects. I did this by the glass for a little while. This 2009 vintage from them, and I thought it was fantastic with food then. I think it's tasting even better right now.
Got that earthiness with the, somebody just mentioned about mushrooms earlier, like risotto with mushrooms and things like that, which is really good for vegetarians.
I know.
Right?
I'm imagining it.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that.
Casey, what would you pair with this?
I'm doing fish, trout.
Oh, trout. Good
Trout.
call.
Smoked trout
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
pistachio.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, I think another good one with this too would be ahi tuna, kind of done in espresso, like where you roll it with espresso on the outside and just let it kind of cook itself, so it's still a little raw in the middle, but it's got that beautiful essence on the outside, you know, with the spices and the espresso beans on the outside. So it's a good way, and most people would say, oh, you can't do fish and red wine. That's
Why
not
not?
true.
Right.
You just don't. You got to have the right chefs.
All
and
the
you've gotta-
time.
I think we've
Yeah.
gone past that.
Well, it's like
That's why I bring
it's my
Darren in.
grandmother's way of life. It's like red wine goes with steak, white wine goes with chicken. You know,
That's
those
how my
days are
teachers were all
over.
fired a while ago.
So
So the next one we've got is the Martin Estate, and this is a really beautiful piece of property too in Napa Valley. They're very well known for their very refined kinds of wines that have those kind of earth tones, but also very high acidity. And I think this is a great example because this is a 2008, which is one of those vintages where you had the 2008, 2011, which were both very, very well known for high acid levels. And there's nothing wrong with that. To be really honest, it's much more the style of Bordeaux to just have tons of high acidity. And why it's a good wine because of that is because acid helps preserve the wine for the long run.
it's the backbone.
It's the backbone.
Acidity is the backbone of any wine.
If you don't have acid in a great wine, it's going to taste just like grape juice. So in many cases, Napa Valley producers are known for buying acid and adding it to it. Whereas in the cooler climate areas, you don't have to do that. So this is a nice balance between those kinds of areas here, where they've got that little bit of breeze in their little estate that allows them to ripen this just to that right point where the sugar is at the right level and the acid is still there. So it's a fantastic example of this style of wine from Napa Valley.
Just extraordinary aroma. Some really intense violet
Yeah,
and black olives and
yeah.
a little
Isn't that a
bit-
beautiful nose?
a little bit of, you know, like cocoa meets vanilla
Oh,
in the
yeah.
mix,
Definitely.
you know? Really, really kind of cool. So a little bit of anise or black
Yeah.
licorice.
It's got a
note to
little
the
nutty
aroma.
character too. I'd say it's more like a roasted walnut that would be in there.
But
really
really
nice.
nice tannin structure on the palate, even on the finish. It's just slightly laced with tannins, but completely approachable. I might even think about decanting this wine ahead of time.
Yeah,
I
we
think it would
we
open up
opened this
nicely.
one a little bit earlier. We didn't decant it. We just popped the cork an hour or so ago, and so I think it's showing very well. I mean, the
Yeah,
nose
absolutely.
is extremely wonderful. When I checked this for being corked, you know, when I first opened it, it just smelled really good. It smelled a lot more intensive. So just a little bit of time outside the bottle would help it. And you know, a great way to do that is just pour it in a decanter. Or sometimes just as you're cooking and you've got the group coming over later, maybe you should taste it first and have a little sneak peek on it and taste it while you're cooking, and then that opens up the wine too.
Well, 2008, absolutely drinking great. And you mentioned time a minute ago, and immediately when I tasted this wine, I just smelled this wine after that, I thought, time by my
Yeah.
side, you know,
Yeah.
Rolling Stones,
Yeah.
time is on my side for sure, and this wine is definitely showing well for an 08
But
vintage. It's
THYME, right?
And then there's that.
Time.
It's
it's very
Time
lush.
after time.
Yeah.
Time after time.
Yeah,
We could-
Cindy
how many
Lauper,
more-
here she
hey,
comes.
There we go.
So we have a Rolling Stones right into Cindy Lauper. That's how we're rolling with
Yeah,
this
yeah,
Napa Valley set. There you go.
Yeah, but really well done. I think that these three Napa Valley wines really exemplify the difference of Napa Valley. A lot of people say it's not as diversified as Sonoma County and other areas, but it really depends on the site. And when you've got Grenache, and then you've got a nice medium-bodied wine like that Sempre Vive, and here we are with this kind of more full-bodied style
Right,
that's
and
really
this
holding
has-
up extremely well.
Totally, and it has that little hint of Rutherford. I don't know, like there's a dust quality on
Yeah.
there, and I think the estates in
Yeah,
Rutherford.
and
does not make
Rutherford
sense.
is very well known for kind of these cocoa chocolate kinds
It's
of
definitely
notes,
very
and we really
chocolatey,
get
yeah.
it
Mhm.
here.
Well, and right away, when I smelled it before I even tasted it, with that black olive and then those herbs and that violet, and it just smelled like it was going to be really rich and inviting. Immediately I thought of just a grilled piece of steak with some melted Point Reyes farmstead blue cheese on top. It just, everything just seemed to be inviting for that combination to happen.
Absolutely.
So,
I think this would be a good lamb pairing too. Yeah, that's so good. But another great showing here.
Yeah.
3 great wines from Napa Valley,
delicious.
all at fantastic prices, and we just love them, and we would be sipping on this forever. If you gave us a case. So it's really getting into this fall season, late summer, fall season. These are really good wines that I think are going to allow you to really share them with a lot of friends and tell some stories in the
Yeah.
meantime.
Great wine from America, Allvino all the time. Cheers,
Allvino
everybody.
all the time.
Cheers.